What's going on, guys? Pastor Frederick here. If you're not aware of this, Uganda is preparing to pass a bill that will not only make LGBTQ illegal, but if you are an LGBTQ person, you can be imprisoned or worse in Uganda. Now, this is crazy. People are in an uproar. The United States Supreme Court are in an uproar about this. Now, let me just say this. Uganda is, get this, a conservative Christian country. So I stand with Uganda there. Like I'm for countries who stand firm on their Christianity, on their beliefs. But I'm gonna tell you if what they're doing is biblical. If you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that. But I want to show you some of the reports to bring you up to speed.
We will have our morals. We will protect our children. And we are making this law. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making this law for our children. We are making this law for the children of our children. This country will stand firm. And once it passed, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, we are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no space in Uganda.
Homosexuals have no space in Uganda. That was said by a lawmaker. You'd think that such rhetoric has no place in today's time. But this rhetoric is rampant in the country and in fact thrives in Uganda. In Parliament, Uganda's anti-homosexual legislation was celebrated with song and fervour. Lawmakers rejoiced as the Parliament passed laws criminalizing same-sex relationships. In fact, even identifying as a gay or lesbian can now get people imprisoned for 20 years. The legislation makes it a duty for families, friends, and members of the community to report homosexuals to authorities. There's a ban on promoting and abetting homosexuality. The law promises to act against the conspiracy to engage in same-sex activities. Perhaps the most radical provision is people engaging in aggravated acts of homosexuality will get a life sentence. That's if they're lucky. If not, they'll get the death penalty. The near-unanimous support for the anti-gay legislation is reflective of the mood in Uganda. It's a deeply conservative Christian country. Homosexuality is a taboo. The people of Uganda support the latest legislation.
So as you can see, this bill is sweeping, it is extensive, and it's coming down hard on the LGBTQ. Now, it's in the parliament, and it needs the approval of the president to make this bill come into law. And the president of Uganda is someone who does not tolerate LGBTQ at all.
All but one member of the parliament spoke against the bill. The legislation hasn't become the law yet. For that, it would require the sign of President Yoweri Museveni. But that's a foregone conclusion. The man has opposed LGBTQ rights as a matter of principle.
So as I said, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that this is going to pass and is going to be law in Uganda. It's going to make homosexuality, LGBTQ illegal in Uganda. Now, there is a biblical precedent for this. Romans 13 talks about God giving the authorities, the government, jurisdiction over sin, over evil. They have the jurisdiction given by God to make laws or provisions that prohibit sin and evil activity to permeate in their countries. And that's what they are doing here. I personally would not put anyone to for being LGBTQ. I wouldn't do that. You know, as a pastor, you know, my approach would be to give them the gospel and to hopefully save their souls and get them out of that lifestyle. But that's why God gives the government a certain power and authority and jurisdiction. He gives the church a certain power and jurisdiction. That's not the church's responsibility to do stuff like that. So from a pastoral perspective, obviously, I wouldn't do anything like that to someone identifying as LGBTQ. I want them to receive the gospel and come out of that lifestyle and follow Christ and practice self-denial. That's what I prefer, but I find it hypocritical that the United States are pushing sanctions and threatening this country because this country is practicing their democracy, and we're supposed to be for democracy. So we cannot look at this country and try to change them or force them to do something that the country obviously does not want.
I want to say one thing at the top. We have grave concerns with the passage of the Anti-Homosexuality Act, AHA, by the Parliament of Uganda yesterday, and increasing violence targeting LGBTQI+ persons If the AHA is signed into law and enacted, it would impinge upon universal human rights, jeopardize progress in the fight against HIV/AIDS, deter tourism, and invest in Uganda and damage Uganda's international reputation. The bill is one of the most extreme anti-LGBTQI+ laws in the world.
Like sanctions or some other concrete measure being considered by the US side if this law should take effect?
Yeah, well, first of all, big if there, right? This is the Parliament passing it. It still has some process to go here. We're certainly watching this real closely, and we would have to take a look at whether or not there might be repercussions that we would have to take, perhaps in an economic way, should this law actually get passed and enacted.
The U.S. should not walk around and act like dictators. Let these countries do what they want to do. Let these countries pass their laws based on what the people decide and vote on, and let them do that. But here's the reason why this country is cracking down on this issue.
We will have our morals. We will protect our children. And we are making this law. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making this law for our children. We are making this law for the children of our children.
They're serious about their children. And I don't blame them. When you look at what the LGBTQ plus community are doing as it relates to children, they are forcing this ideology on children. They're performing and they're inviting drag queens to read to children, and they're teaching this stuff in school, and they're talking about all these perverted things in elementary school to children, grooming and conditioning them to become desensitized to this issue, which is a choice. You're not born this way. You choose to do these things. And they're pushing this on the children in America and the Western world. So Uganda, if they're watching what we're doing in this country, they're going to say, oh, no, we will not allow that in our country. And we don't want our children to become brainwashed by this issue. And that's why they're so staunch on this and making sure that they set a serious precedent so the generation to come understands that this is their stance, this is what they stand on, and if you just decide to do this, there's going to be consequences. You can do nothing but respect that. I personally respect it, and I'm proud and appreciate that they're standing firm on what they believe in their country, despite what the Western world is doing, despite how the Western world feels. They're doing what's best for the children. Remember, Jesus spoke vehemently about harming children, and the people who harm children, it's better for them to be thrown into a lake with a stone around their neck than what's going to happen to them when he deals with them. I don't know how this is going to play out, but I'm going to be watching how the U.S. responds to Uganda, what Uganda does. Keep this country in your prayers, because of course they're going to receive major persecution for this. It's coming, and I believe that's a sign that we're living in the last days. So stay focused on the word of God, stand firm on the gospel, and make sure that you are always being vigilant for the coming of Christ. If you enjoyed this video and you want more content like this, do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to this channel. I'll be back with another one next week. This is Pastor Frederick. This is By the Book. Peace.